You know, for way too long, the story of an entire continent has been boiled down, pushed aside, or just started at the completely wrong chapter. We're here to change that. We're going to uncover the powerful, true story of Africa, the one that probably wasn't in your textbook.
So get ready, because this is a story that goes way beyond pyramids and safaris. It's a story of unbelievable wealth, deep knowledge, a brutal interruption, and, when it's all said and done, just incredible resilience.
If you ask most people where African history starts, they'll probably talk about European ships showing up. But that's not even close to the beginning. To get this right, we've got to rewind by thousands of years.
I mean, think about it. Long before many of the world's so-called great cities were even a blueprint, you had ancient Egypt. And those pyramids? They weren't just tombs. No way. They were stunning feats of engineering, they were astronomical observatories, and they were these powerful symbols that have stood tall for over 4,000 years. But here's the thing. This story of ancient Africa doesn't stop at the Nile, not by a long shot. While Egypt was building its incredible legacy, other powerful, wealthy civilizations were thriving all across the continent, long before colonization was even a thought. Just south of Egypt, there was a kingdom that history often forgets, but it was writing its own epic story, Nubia. You might know it as the Kingdom of Kush. This civilization had its own mighty kings and queens, its own unique writing system, and get this, at its peak, Nubian rulers actually conquered and governed Egypt itself.
And while everyone knows about Egypt's pyramids, the Nubians were master builders too. In fact, if you go to modern-day Sudan, which was the heart of ancient Nubia, you'll find more pyramids than in all of Egypt. Crazy, right?
Okay, now let's jump over to West Africa, where a whole series of incredible empires rose to power. You had the Ghana Empire, which basically controlled the world's gold supply by dominating the Saharan trade routes. Then came the Mali Empire, which built on that wealth, and after that, the mighty Songhai Empire, which had a professional army and a super sophisticated government. And speaking of the Mali Empire, we have to talk about its most famous ruler, Mansa Musa. His wealth wasn't just big. He is considered by, well, pretty much everyone, to be the wealthiest person in all of human history. We're talking a fortune that's almost impossible to even imagine today.
To give you an idea of how rich he was, when Mansa Musa went on his pilgrimage to Mecca, he brought such a massive entourage and gave away so much gold in cities like Cairo that he literally crashed their economies. He caused massive inflation that lasted for more than a decade. Just imagine being so rich you could break a whole city's economy just by being generous.
But these empires, they weren't just about the gold. They were powerhouses of knowledge. The city of Timbuktu, for example, became this world-famous center for learning. Its universities and libraries had hundreds of thousands of books on everything from astronomy to medicine, attracting the smartest people from all over the world. So for centuries, you had these incredible empires rising, falling, trading, and innovating. But then, European ships appeared on the coast, and that marked a huge shift. The beginning of a story that wasn't about exchange, but about exploitation.
What started as simple coastal trade in the 1400s spiraled into one of the darkest chapters in human history, the transatlantic slave trade. Over 12 million people were stolen from their homes and families, and this era of devastation led directly to the so-called Scramble for Africa in the late 19th century, which was basically a free-for-all of colonization. European powers just descended on the continent and started carving it up like a cake. They wanted the resources, they wanted the territory, and they had zero regard for the people, the cultures, or the kingdoms that were already there. Countries like Britain, France, and even tiny Belgium claimed these huge chunks of land, completely redrawing the map. And this whole division was made official at the Berlin Conference in 1884. European leaders literally sat around a table with a map and just drew lines, creating the borders of modern Africa. Not a single African leader was invited. Not one was in the room. An entire continent's future was decided for them by a handful of outsiders.
What you have to understand, this was never a story of people just accepting their fate. In the face of this overwhelming force, Africans resisted. They fought back, and they began the long, painful, and powerful struggle to get their home back.
Just a couple of years after that silent conference in Berlin, one nation sent a message that was heard loud and clear. In 1896, the army of Ethiopia, led by Emperor Menelik II, absolutely crushed an invading Italian force at the Battle of Adwa. It was this huge, stunning victory that kept Ethiopia independent, and it became a beacon of hope for the whole continent.
Ethiopia's victory was a symbol, but the wider fight took many more decades. That spirit of resistance really kicked into high gear after World War II. The European powers were weakened, and this wave of independence just swept across the continent. It started with Ghana in 1957. Soon, countries all over Africa started winning their freedom, some peacefully, others through really brutal wars.
And one of the most powerful symbols of this entire global fight for freedom was, of course, Nelson Mandela. Think about it. After spending 27 years in prison for fighting the horrific apartheid system in South Africa, he didn't come out calling for revenge. He came out with a message of reconciliation, and he led his country into a new, democratic future.
Now, independence didn't magically fix everything. The legacy of colonialism, those artificial borders, those economies built to serve others, it's complicated. But Africa today isn't defined by its past struggles. It is a continent on the move, absolutely buzzing with energy, innovation, and just massive potential.
So while, many nations are still dealing with the fallout from those colonial legacies, today's Africa is also a story of incredible growth. You've got booming tech hubs in places like Lagos and Nairobi. You've got Nigeria's film industry, Nollywood, taking over the world, and you hear the influence of Afrobeats everywhere. This is a story of real cultural and economic power.
And maybe Africa's greatest asset for the future is its people. Over 60% of the entire continent is under the age of 25. That is a massive, unprecedented wave of energy, creativity, and potential. It is the largest youth population in the world, and they are ready to build the future.
So in a lot of ways, the story of Africa has come full circle. The very same land that gave us some of the first great kingdoms, libraries, and engineering marvels is now giving us a new generation of coders, artists, entrepreneurs, and scientists who are shaping all of our futures.
Look, Africa's history isn't something that just happened to it. From the architects of Nubia to the freedom fighters of the 20th century and the innovators of today, Africa has always made history. And as it continues to rise, the whole world is watching to see what it will make next.